Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into the depths, really, exploring the subsea and offshore service market. Our mission, like always, is to pull out those key nuggets from the source material, give you a shortcut to getting up to speed. As the world deals with energy security, climate goals, it's interesting how established players and, well, emerging economies are racing to unlock ocean potential. And its challenges, too. It's a very specialized industry, everything from installing pipelines, complex wellheads, to operating those ROVs kilometers down. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, and the numbers really set the scene, don't they? They paint quite a picture. Our source puts the global market at $16.6 billion back in 2021. It's grown steadily, hitting about $21.37 billion in 2025. And looking forward, forecasted to cross, get this, $35.36 billion by 2033. That's a strong CAGR, compound annual growth rate, of 6.5%. What's fascinating here, I think, is how the key drivers show where global energy focus is really heading. You've got more offshore exploration, rising investment in deep-sea infrastructure, huge underwater facilities, pipelines, and crucially, big advances in remotely operated vehicle tech, the ROVs. They're basically our eyes and hands down there.
That's a huge trajectory, especially for something most of us will never see. And it's insightful, isn't it, to understand why regions are growing like this, what it says about future energy strategy. This is where it gets really interesting, looking at who's leading, where the big shifts are happening globally. North America, for instance, still leads the pack.
Precisely. North America, it's projected to grow from $5.6 billion in 21 to a solid $11.37 billion by 2033.
Yeah.
The U.S. alone, expected to be over $9 billion of that by 2033.
Yeah.
Pretty substantial.
Wow.
Yeah, and its leadership isn't just size. It's a mature strategic base. Think Gulf of Mexico sustained investment there is key for energy security. Plus, Canada and Mexico are expanding steadily too. ECA GR is around 6.8%, 7.3%. So deepwater assets are still vital, maybe even new Arctic prospects for Canada.
Okay.
It really highlights this dual strategy. Maintain the core assets, but also explore those new frontiers.
That makes sense. A mature market, but still evolving.
Right.
So how about Europe, an established region? How are they adapting? Are they maybe diversifying services faster beyond just oil and gas?
That's a good point. Europe's market is forecasted to hit nearly $9.53 billion by 2033. That's up from $4.8 billion in 2021.
Yeah.
So the numbers are big. But Europe, especially the UK and Germany, they're strategically pivoting, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The UK projected around $1.88 billion by 33. A lot of that is North Sea history and investment, sure. But they're also leveraging that deep water know-how for newer things like offshore wind installation, even subsea carbon capture. It shows how they're adapting that deep-sea infrastructure focus.
Interesting pivot.
Germany's close behind, expected at $2.5 billion, often leading in those greener energy applications too. Growth is a bit more modest, though, in places like Italy, Russia, Spain. Their CAGRs are more like 5.0% to 5.7%.
Okay, that gives a good sense of the mature markets. So then what about a rapidly developing area like Asia Pacific?
Yeah.
Energy demand there is just, well, skyrocketing. What does it mean for them?
Oh, Asia Pacific is really thriving here. A high CG, 7%,
Mm-hmm.
poised to hit $7.57 billion by 2033. China is dominant, expected to grow to $2.65 billion.
Right.
And their dominance isn't just volume, it's strategic. They want energy independence. They're developing their own deep water capabilities fast, really challenging the traditional Western tech players.
Mm-hmm.
India's next, forecasted at $985 million, growing at a really solid 7.9% CAGR. That's actually one of the fastest globally. And the source also notes smaller markets, like Taiwan, showing the highest CAGR in the whole Asia-Pacific bloc, 8.7%. Southeast Asia is growing rapidly too, driven by a lot of offshore exploration.
Fascinating. Different strategic drivers everywhere. So Asia Pacific surging. How does that compare to South America? Resource abundance there often means a different kind of growth pattern, doesn't it?
Yeah, South America's market should reach over $3 billion by 2033. A huge chunk of that is Brazil, $1.46 billion just from them. And when you think about their massive pre-salt discoveries, well, you get why.
Like finding a new energy continent, almost.
Exactly. Requires enormous deep-sea infrastructure development. Other countries like Argentina, Colombia, Chile, they show moderate, consistent growth. But it's worth noting the rest of South America, it lags behind. CAGR is only about 2.7%. Shows how concentrated the growth drivers are there.
Right, very focused on Brazil mainly. Okay, moving across now to the Middle East. Sources indicate a significant surge there. What's behind that acceleration?
The Middle East, projected to surge to $1.78 billion by 2033. It's led by Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Impressive AGR, 7.2% and 7.6%.
Strong growth.
You can really attribute that to sustained high offshore drilling activity, plus strong government support.
Hmm?
You want to expand energy output, refine that deep sea infrastructure. Egypt, Qatar, Turkey are also significant contributors, fitting with regional energy goals.
We've covered some big growth areas, but the data on Africa really jumps out. What's driving that incredibly fast pace? What makes it unique?
Africa is definitely highlighted as the fastest growing region, set to basically triple, from $531 million in 2021 to over $2 billion by 2033.
Wow, triple.
Yeah, with an impressive KGR of 10.9%. What's unique, it's a combination, really, vast untapped offshore reserves, oil and gas, plus rapidly rising energy demand right across the continent itself. Key players, Nigeria projected at $905 million. South Africa, around $800 million. Both are growing above 10% CAGR,
Wow.
driven by exploration and a push to build their own deep-sea energy infrastructure. If you connect that to the bigger picture, Africa's potential here is, well, pretty remarkable, given their energy needs and the opportunities for new service companies.
So wrapping this up, it seems clear the subsea and offshore service market is riding a huge wave of momentum, fueled by that deep water exploration, global energy security needs, and these big regional investments, reshaping the energy map, often way out of sight.
Exactly. Our deep dive shows these really compelling regional stories: Africa, Asia Pacific, Middle East, leading growth, often from new exploration and building infrastructure.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, North America and Europe, though more mature, hold strong positions. They leverage their expertise, pivot to new things like offshore wind, carbon capture using that subsea tech. The source is pretty clear. Vast opportunities here for service providers, equipment makers, investors, everyone involved.
And it makes you think, as we push deeper into the oceans for energy, what does all this accelerating investment mean for tech innovation, in specialized fields like ROVs? What new possibilities might that unlock? Maybe beyond just energy. Could it help with ocean science or even space exploration tech, given the extreme conditions? Something to ponder, I guess, until our next deep dive.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a plunge, you could say, into a sector that's often hidden but absolutely vital, the subsea and offshore services market. It's this fascinating world under the waves, really full of advanced engineering, crucial energy infrastructure, and it tells us a lot about where our global energy future is, well, actually headed. Our mission today is pretty clear. We want to unpack the big forces driving its growth, look at the serious challenges it's up against, and explore the really exciting trends shaping what comes next. The goal is to give you a solid but digestible understanding of this really dynamic industry. And just so you know, all our insights today are drawn from a great report by Cognitive Market Research. It's called Subsea and Offshore Services: Drivers, Challenges, and Trends. Okay, so let's dive right in. What's really pushing this market forward? It seems like technology, these incredible advancements, are right at the top of the list. We hear about things like AUVs, autonomous underwater vehicles, and ROVs, remotely operated vehicles, plus these amazing sensor systems. Sounds impressive, sure, but what's the actual impact?
How are these changing things beyond just, making operations a bit easier?
Well, it's much more fundamental than just ease of use. I mean, yes, they absolutely boost precision, reliability, efficiency. All that's true. But the real game changer, I think, is the foresight they enable. Think about the sheer amount of data, the granularity of data that these advanced sensors and AUVs can gather now. It's unprecedented. We're talking terabytes of real-time environmental info, structural readings, operational metrics, all from just one trip out there. So it's not just about reacting when something breaks down. It's about shifting to a truly predictive maintenance approach. We can actually start to anticipate potential equipment failures, maybe weeks, sometimes even months ahead of time. That completely flips the operating model, right? It allows for much better resource planning and drastically cuts down on that really expensive unplanned downtime. It turns guesswork into, well, data-driven decisions.
Wow, okay. So moving from reactive to predictive, that's a huge leap. And speaking of what's now possible, another massive driver seems to be just the sheer global demand for energy. We keep hearing about this shift, moving away from the easier shallow water stuff towards deep water, even ultra deep water reserves. What does that actually mean for the subsea market? Is it simply about drilling deeper?
It's definitely more complex than just depth. It's really about the entire ecosystem, the infrastructure you need to operate economically and safely in those kinds of extreme conditions. I mean, think about the pressure down there, the cold, the remoteness. It all demands incredibly specialized, really robust subsea systems. And that's precisely why services like subsea well intervention, which is basically like complex surgery on wells thousands of meters underwater,
Yeah.
subsea construction jobs, and IMR, that's inspection, maintenance, and repair, where they become so absolutely critical. For the companies involved, being able to operate effectively in these deepwater environments isn't just, a nice-to-have advantage. It's fundamentally strategic. It dictates who can actually get to and reliably produce from the world's major remaining hydrocarbon resources.
Right, so it's not just exploring deeper, it's having the tech and the specialized skills to actually make it work economically. It takes real muscle. But it's not all about oil and gas these days, is it? There's this huge global push towards sustainability. Offshore wind, for example, is seeing massive investment. How does Subsea fit into that picture?
Oh, the subsea sector is completely pivotal for the energy transition. Absolutely crucial. Take offshore wind farms, you've got these giant turbines generating huge amounts of power, right? But that power needs to get to the grid onshore somehow. That's where subsea service providers step in. They have the specialized know-how for efficient subsea cable installation. And these aren't just ordinary cables. They're high-capacity, super robust lines built to survive the harsh marine environment and transmit power smoothly. But it goes beyond just the cables. Subsea services are essential for installing and maintaining the foundations for those massive turbines too, and even doing the IMR, the inspection and repair, on the underwater parts of the wind farms themselves. So it really positions the industry as a key enabler. It shows its versatility, way beyond just traditional energy, connecting renewables directly to us.
Okay, so it sounds like an industry just buzzing with opportunity, really pushing boundaries. But like any market moving this fast, there've got to be some significant hurdles. What are the main restraints or challenges holding things back a bit?
Yeah, there definitely are challenges. And one of the biggest, and it's a persistent one, is the incredibly high cost involved, both capital investment and operational costs. Developing subsea infrastructure is just, well, it's seriously expensive,
Yeah.
especially when we get into deepwater projects. The specialized ships, the ROVs, the safety standards you need because of the risks, the sheer difficulty of maintaining everything in that environment, it all adds up very, very quickly. These costs are, orders of magnitude higher than what you typically see on shore. This high barrier to entry makes it tough for new companies to jump in, and it can limit how much existing players can expand, particularly in places where offshore funding might be tighter.
Yeah, I can definitely see how those costs would be a major factor, a huge barrier. And thinking about all this technology, the remote operations you mentioned, cybersecurity must be a growing headache too, right? Data privacy seems like a potentially vulnerable area.
Absolutely. It's becoming a critical concern, no question, especially as the industry digitizes more and more. You've got this complex web now of IoT systems, countless sensors, remotely operated tech. It creates a massive network. And unfortunately, that makes subsea operations quite an attractive target for cyber attacks. A breach isn't just about losing money directly. It can cause huge operational downtime, which, as we said, is incredibly costly offshore, Brent Gulf food. And worst case, you could even have environmental incidents if critical safety or control systems are compromised. So this threat, it does have a bit of a chilling effect. It can make companies hesitant about fully embracing digital tools without really solid, resilient cybersecurity measures in place first.
Yeah. Balancing the amazing potential of digital with that very real threat makes sense. And just thinking about the complexity, the technical sophistication you've been describing, finding the people with the right skills must be tough. Is there a workforce constraint issue?
Yes, there is. It's a significant bottleneck, actually. The advanced nature of these subsea systems, it just demands a very specific, highly skilled workforce. We're talking experts in marine engineering, robotics, data analytics, automation. The trouble is, in many parts of the world, especially perhaps in emerging economies looking to build their offshore capabilities, there's a real shortage of people trained in these areas. And that talent gap, it directly slows down how quickly companies can deploy and make the best use of these advanced systems. It makes it harder to keep up with the technology and with global competition. It's a fundamental challenge the industry is definitely trying to tackle with training programs and things like that.
Okay, so some really significant challenges there: costs, cybersecurity, finding the right people. But despite all that, the innovation doesn't seem to be stopping. Let's pivot now to the future. What are the key trends you see really shaping where this market is headed? Where's the exciting stuff happening?
Well, one of the most transformative trends, I'd say, is the growing use of artificial intelligence and machine learning, AI and ML. And this isn't just, hype. It's being actively deployed for things like real-time monitoring of equipment health, for predictive maintenance, like we talked about earlier, and even for complex fault detection. Imagine an AI system constantly analyzing sensor data from, say, a subsea pipeline. It might pick up tiny anomalies, things a human could easily miss, and predict a potential issue weeks before it actually becomes a problem. These kinds of applications are boosting operational reliability in a big way and, again, cutting down that costly downtime. Longer term, AI is going to be absolutely vital for getting the most out of these assets and keeping costs manageable, especially on those really complex, expensive deep water projects where sending people down is difficult and risky.
That's fascinating. Predicting problems before they happen. It really sounds like AI isn't just tweaking things, it's fundamentally changing the management approach.
Okay.
And beyond just AI itself, are we seeing bigger shifts in how operations are managed overall, maybe using cloud platforms?
Oh, definitely. Cloud-based management platforms for subsea and offshore operations are really taking off. The advantages are pretty compelling. You get huge scalability, you drastically cut down on your own IT overhead because you're not managing all those physical servers yourself, and updates are seamless. But maybe the biggest impact here is the rise of these managed service models. What that means is that companies, maybe smaller regional operators who don't have massive capital or big IT teams, they can now access sophisticated analytics, AI tools, automation, usually through a subscription. It's basically democratizing access to these high-end digital capabilities. It helps level the playing field and speeds up digital transformation across the whole sector.
Right, so it makes these powerful tools much more accessible, levels the playing field, like you said. Okay, and finally, what about the Internet of Things, IoT, and connecting everything up? How is that integration with wider energy network changing things down below? Sounds like a pretty grand vision.
It really is a paradigm shift. It's changing how these offshore systems talk to the onshore grids and the broader smart infrastructure that's developing. By embedding IoT sensors and ensuring connectivity, these subsea assets become nodes in a much larger, intelligent, interconnected network. This allows for, well, real-time monitoring, remote control, instant diagnosis of issues from potentially anywhere in the world. That capability boosts responsiveness massively, and it makes the whole system more resilient. We're seeing more demand now for specific solutions built on this, like intelligent diagnostics for subsea cables that can pinpoint damage precisely, or sophisticated tracking for every bit of equipment, and continuous environmental monitoring to make sure everything's compliant. This integration really places the subsea industry right at the heart of the connected energy ecosystem. It allows for this dynamic, optimized management of our entire energy infrastructure, from source to consumer.
Wow. What an incredible journey we've taken today in this deep dive. We've covered so much ground from the interplay of tech, like AI and ROVs, to that huge global energy demand pushing us deeper offshore, and the really crucial role subsea plays in sustainability, especially with offshore wind. We also face those big hurdles. The
Yeah.
high costs, the looming cybersecurity threats, and that critical need for skilled people. And yet we've seen how these powerful new digital trends, AI, cloud platforms, IoT integration, are just fundamentally reshaping the future of this whole sector.
Yeah, and understanding these dynamics, these forces at play, it really gives you, the listener, a unique perspective on a part of our global energy system that's vital, but often, out of sight, out of mind. It's a sector that's constantly having to innovate, not just react, to meet some incredibly complex global needs.
Absolutely. And it leaves us with something to think about, doesn't it? As we lean more and more on these autonomous systems, on AI, to manage operations in these really remote, sensitive underwater environments, what kind of new ethical questions might come up, especially as these complex, connected subsea systems become even more central to our energy future? Definitely some food for thought as this hidden world keeps evolving.